Broadcasting by way of Gallifrey. Stand by for podcast. This is Voices from the Vortex.
Voices from the Vortex Review, Series 8, Episode 7, Kill the Moon.
Hello out there in Vortexy land.
Doctor, what have you done?
Get it together, man, or I'll slap you so hard you'll regenerate.
What have you done to my Clara?
Yeah. This is Matt, one of the two dudes from Gallifrey.
Oh, and this is Taylor. I don't know, Matt. I don't know, man.
Are you alright there?
It was rough.
It was rough. It was a tough episode.
Yeah.
Guys, we're talking about Kill the Moon. We're talking about Season 8's Kill the Moon, which...
Kill the mood.
Kill the mood. I'm pretty sure this is going to be the defining episode of this season. This is the episode where it all changes.
Yeah.
Every season there's an episode that's usually really publicized as being the game changer for the season. Midnight was sort of that, or not Midnight, Turn Left was sort of that episode for Season 4. Season 7, it was clearly it was the snowman. It was the goodbye to the pawns. And this season, they didn't publicize it as being the game changer. They put it out there. It just happened. And I think this is going to be that episode that really divides the Clara Doctor experience.
I'm not even sure she's going to be in the next episode. I think maybe she was in the maybe a little bit, but maybe she's not even on the adventure, but she's still like in the episode.
Right.
But yeah, I have to say this episode was, for me, it was good. It was okay. We've talked a lot about how this one's gotten better and better and better. Mm-hmm. And the end of this was great. I love the end of this episode. The whole emotional scene there. But as far as the rest of it went, for me, it was okay. I could have cared less about the moon and the explanation they had with it, and everything. It was just kind of okay for me. But otherwise, I thought the rest of it was great.
I was, and those who follow us, I'm in the rare position. I'm going to disagree with you. I actually felt the ending was a little unnecessary. I thought the emotional ending was not as good as people make it out to be. It was good. I mean, it was a good moment. It was a good... That line, I'll slap you so hard, you'll regenerate, is just one of the best lines in Doctor Who now. It's such a good comeback.
That was great.
But I'll tell you what, the first 20 or 30 minutes, the scariest, most frightening parts of this episode, they were the best of this episode. The sounds, the visuals, the music of just them being there on the moon, and then the antibacteria creatures, the anti what do they call those? The giant spiders. So creepy and just so scary, and see, the sound of it walking around in the back when they were in the base, the scientific research base, and Courtney was trapped in there, and you heard her fall to the ground, and then you just heard the sound of the spider that's feet touching the ground, and you went, oh no. I really loved that suspension. I really loved that tension. I loved just how dangerous this episode felt. That nothing in this episode was safe, and I love the idea that the Doctor was rude, very, very rude to Courtney, and she kind of deserves it. She's not that interesting of a character, but she's a kid. She's 15. She's a child. She's not meant to be his traveling companion, and he sort of spites her and says, "Fine, you want to be special? I'll take you on an adventure, and then you're special, okay? Then you're done with this." And he does, and she should not have been there. It was very dangerous, and I don't understand where Clara didn't stand up for that, but... that's another point. It's something else to talk about. The first part of this was interesting. Really good.
That was interesting. I thought the whole her not being important thing was kind of weird, because just last season he did this whole speech to Mary Galel in Rings of Akatan about how she was the only Mary Galel in the universe, and all the atoms came to form her and all that, and she's special and important. And all these other lines I could quote from other past seasons about everybody being important. It was a really weird thing to hear that the Doctor had said that she wasn't important.
But it wasn't that, because look what Courtney was doing. Courtney was being a little brat. Courtney stumbled in on him when he was in the middle of an adventure, and she was so intent on just getting inside the TARDIS and singing his world. And, she was very abrasive about it, and he put her aside. He said, no. He says, you can't, he showed her the TARDIS, then he pulled her aside and said, not now, not like this. That was in The Caretaker. Mm-hmm. He was busy. He was doing other things. And so what's her response is she starts acting up. She starts acting out. She starts, she seals the psychic paper so she can go get alcohol. And I feel like, when Matt Smith was talking to Mary Galel, she had a very important purpose and she was frightened. And Matt Smith's doctor sat down and said, look, this is why you're special, because she needed to hear that. Courtney didn't need to hear that. Courtney needed a swift kick up her butt. And the Doctor knew it. And the Doctor's like, I'm not going to... it's like the attitude. I'm not going to placate this. I'm not going to pretend like every person who steps into my life should be on this TARDIS. And they shouldn't be. He did that with Adam in Season 1 with Rose and Eccleston. He's done that before with other... He did that with a soldier earlier on in this season where he said, sorry, you're a soldier. You're not good enough. It's not that he doesn't see everyone as special or thinks everyone is special, but he's not ready to just give up his time and energy telling people who don't deserve it. And that's what makes this Doctor so much older, is that he's got other things and better things to do. And him taking her and saying, okay, fine, you want to be the first woman on the moon? Be the first woman on the moon. That was rude. It was very mean-spirited, because he's just playing her on. He's just egging her on. I have...
Egging her on?
Snap! I have a really big problem with this episode, and here it is. I loved everything about it. I love the direction. I love the adventure. I love the ideas. It's a beautiful idea. It's very Doctor Who of an idea. But absolutely none of it makes any sense.
Okay. I've seen a lot of arguments online. I went online the other day after I watched this. A lot of arguments about the science of it, and I don't know if you're going to start arguing about the science of it, but before you do, just shut up. Don't. Just don't, okay?
Look, if a man can travel through a blue box, and this is what you don't know.
Just because... This is the thing that bugs me. Just because this is science fiction, it has the word fiction in it. Just because it has the word science in it does not mean that it actually has to, match science. It has to be inspired by science. And people, I'm not saying you, but people were arguing oh well, how did the gravity just suddenly shift of the moon if it was the egg the whole time and blah 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 blah? And it's shut up, people, just stop.
That doesn't even bother me, but there are other things that bother me. I mean, there are some there, and they actually make some really good points about it. If this thing has been growing inside the moon for all these years, and that's fine. It's a unique creature in the universe, and it's been growing in the moon all these years, and all of a sudden it's going to hatch. As it's been growing, the moon itself should have been changing properties. So we should have seen a dramatic change in the moon over the course of human history. But whatever, okay. The thing breaks out of the moon. Chunks of the moon just break up. And I know he says, oh, it's not a moon, it's an egg, it's egg dust. So egg dust is just going to evaporate. But no, it's giant chunks of a moon. That stuff falls to Earth. The moon itself is causing all this havoc on Earth with the tides, because I guess it's moving closer towards the Earth. I guess that was the explanation for that. So
the gravity of it was bigger, so it was
Even if chunks of the moon then, when it exploded, wouldn't have flown straight towards the Earth, the sudden release of gravity would have caused even more catastrophic and destructive tidal waves across the Earth and hurt more things. I mean, it just... Everything about this episode, it's such a beautiful episode, but it just doesn't make any sense. And here's what bothers me, is that so much of Doctor Who, so much of the writing, somebody sits down and says, if it's going to be something that's just BS science, just make it BS science. But they don't. They're like, well, if they try to make it real science, they at least try. They at least try and put it to some sort of scale where it can make where okay, well this is this is what this is and this is what that is. The thing is born, it's ginormous and just flies off into space. Okay, so it doesn't have to breathe. Okay, it doesn't have to breathe. It can fly through the vacuum of space, but it poops out another egg right then and there. No creature known on Earth, at least, after it hatches, can lay another egg. But where's it flying to? And if it is a creature that can fly through space and break through the Earth's gravity and not get sucked down into the Earth's gravity, how does it know where it's going? And where is it going? And why wouldn't it fly to the closest source of light and heat and food? And, I mean, it's born and it's gone. And if it's a metaphor, whatever, but nothing about it. There's needed. This entire episode. There's like 20 more minutes of this episode that needs to happen. There's 20 more minutes where the Doctor explains something to us.
Well, and that's one of the things too that bugs me about shows like this is where people complain is just because there is no on-screen explanation does not mean there isn't an explanation. You know what I mean?
But if the only thing I'm going to see is on screen and I have to enjoy it, I want that on-screen explanation, or at least
that was what everyone's problem with Lost was. They were like, they just raised more questions. It's like, well, just think for a minute and just
but Lost gave you plenty of answers.
I mean, does it matter? Really?
The dude literally stood there at the end and just outlined everything that happened to Jack 10 seconds before they all decided to leave that plane of existence. Like, literally, Lost gave you the answers wrapped up in a neat little bow and said, here, this is what we've been doing. This is what we're talking about. Just think about that. This was giant moon thing flies away. What?
Yeah,
what happened to all the spider things? Did they fall to Earth? Are they all over the Earth now?
That was my other thing. Another episode. I'm glad they didn't call this one Web of Fear because this one also would have had nothing to do with a web.
There were webs in this one.
There were webs, but they weren't important. Just like in Web of Fear, there was hardly any webs. They weren't very important. So I'm glad they didn't call this one Web of Fear. But yeah, the spiders turned out to be nothing. They were scary for. That's what I'm saying. This is why I disagree with what you said at first. Is the first 20 minutes of this episode, really the whole thing with the moon, it was okay. It was kind of fun. It was an egg. Hey, that's fun. But I was more interested in the end. So I thought the rest of it was just okay. And not as good as, say, Listen or even The Caretaker. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and the ending is I think we've gotten so used to Doctor Who with these really defining personal moments. The last few seasons have just been, how much can we define this man by the things that happen? And, from Eccleston on, it's always been, there have been a couple of episodes that really do it. Dalek defined Eccleston's Doctor, but then we really didn't see a definition again. We didn't see those moments again until Parting of the Ways. Tennant gets a little bit early on, but then we really don't see it till Rose leaves. And then, we see a little bit with Martha, but we don't see it again until the Master's there. A lot of finales had that. Once we get to Matt Smith, it was like they started putting that in more and more throughout the show, that there were more and more episodes where we kind of took a step back and said, this is giving us more information about who the Doctor is than we've ever seen before.
This was a Good Man Goes to War episode for me. Like that's how I felt about it.
Well, and that's exactly it. That was season 6's game changer. Good Man Goes to War changed season 6 forever. It changed the course of the show and the course of that season and how we see the Doctor. Season 7, it was the Snowmen, or the Bells of St. John, if you want to pass up the Snowmen. That's fine. So this is Kill the Moon is this season's version of that. But that moment at the end, that's great. But we've had a lot of these defining moments already this season. And we didn't need it. I mean, it's great that it's there. But this whole episode is such a great premise and it's such a wonderful idea. And I feel like the last 10 minutes of this episode could have better been spent wrapping up the damn episode. And we just sort of skipped out. This thing happened. And now it's done, and now we're just going to do a little Clara thing, and it's gone. It's done. Let's move on to the next episode. We got a mummy on a train. And it's like, no, stop. You do the Clara thing too, but give me 10 more minutes of this episode. Give me 10 more minutes of what this thing means to humanity. Give me an explanation from the Doctor of what he did or didn't know. Give me an explanation of what humanity's change is. relate this to the fact that not but a few years from then, you're supposed to have the first manned trip to Mars. And relate this too. Give me some context, because it's a great episode. They just jumped to the future, did this thing that's super important for humanity, and just let it go. Nothing else.
The end, though, where they're on the beach, I want to talk about this, because this was pretty cool in my opinion. They're on the beach, and first of all, earlier, when this was the best explanation I've ever heard of the time in flux moments. He's like, there's little eye blinks, things that haven't been decided yet, things that I, as a Time Lord, don't know. This one was really cool because they talked a lot about his, quote, Time Lordy powers, right?
His ability to see time and space.
And he actually uses them at the end. Oh, it's brilliant. They're like, what happens now? And he sort of closes his eyes and
he sees the way time
it looks like he goes into a little trance almost. And he sees from this, now that this moment has been decided, what happens then. So he does give us a little context. He basically says this makes people look up into the sky and see something beautiful and want to go out and travel. And it's sort of like the same thing as what's her name?
Adelaide Brooke.
Adelaide Brooke, where she sees the Dalek. It's kind of the same.
Right. She follows that
thing. So yeah.
I don't know. I say all this now, and maybe this is just because I just watched it, and I'm excited about it. I swear to you, after the season is done, I'm going to go back and rewatch the entire thing straight through and enjoy it again, and probably do it a third time, as I did for seasons 6 and 7, 5, 6, and 7. Just kept watching them. I don't know. I'm raw. I'm raw about it because I'm like, I sat there and I enjoyed this episode, and then I said, what the heck did I just watch? And I wanted a little bit more. And Doctor Who doesn't have to be a little bit more, but this episode needed a little bit more. And it needed a little bit more where it wasn't just, hey, this is just what we're doing.
Sure.
Again, dude's an alien with 2 hearts, and he flies through time and space in a blue box that's bigger on the inside. So the suspension of disbelief is already stretched kind of thin. But this episode really tugged it open and said, look, if you can walk this line, if you can like this episode, damn it, there's not a single episode of this show you will hate, because this episode is the most ridiculous. It makes no sense. It's the most out there that doesn't give you any explanation. It's the Doctor at his worst. Him running away was the worst thing I've ever seen the Doctor do.
That was pretty crazy.
But he drives people away.
I think that was the most important part of the episode, was the Doctor running away, Clara getting angry at the end, and this very emotional moment. And they just needed in my opinion, they just needed some adventure to go on so they could have this character moment. And it just happened to be this thing with the moon, which they could have come up with something else.
No.
And it could have been better explainable. I guess that's your problem.
But didn't you see what they did, though? I mean, that's the thing. This whole episode's been brewing since the beginning of the season. The Doctor has been brewing over the fact that Clara more and more is expecting him to be a certain way and a certain person. And I even think this episode is a direct response from Listen. Clara gave him a directive. Do not ever look where we just were. And he hated that. And I think this episode, he was doing something to both Clara and Courtney at the same time. Look what happened. Courtney says, you said I'm not special. And he says, fine, you want special? Let's go to the moon. You'll be the first girl on the moon. But what did he get when he got there? The most unique creature in the universe. He said it himself. The moon is a creature, and it's the most unique thing in the universe, a special creature. He showed Courtney, you think you're special. You think you should be special. But look what we just found. We found a creature that is the most special in the universe. That was a direct dig at Courtney. That was not just rude, that was mean. He wanted Courtney to realize that it doesn't matter what she wants. There are things greater than her in the universe. But then what did he do to Clara? He left her. You're right. He just left her. But when did he come back? After she hit the button. He saw that. He saw her hitting the button, and he was there.
Yeah.
He expected her to do it. I don't think there's any piece of this mission that he wasn't aware of. He knew what would happen, and he knew how she would react, and he needed to remind her that she needs to be a better version of herself because she can't tell him what to do. I think this is a direct response to how she told him, don't ever look where we were at the end of Listen. And I think he wants her to know it.
Well, that's interesting. I don't know if I'd have to think about that for him. But yeah, no, I think,
It might just.
I think at the end when he says, that was me respecting you, do you think that was honest? Or, I mean, I think so. I think he was very, taken aback by her
anger
response to it. I think he was actually thought that this was something that she would be okay with, and that he, I don't know.
I think he expected her to learn something from this, and what she learned was not what he wanted.
Right.
I think she took away from it something completely different than what he expected her to do. And he was trying to, she's mad at him. He said, well, no, look, I did this because I respect you and because I want you to be a better version of yourself and because I want humanity to be a better version and I shouldn't have to interfere because you know what you're doing.
I knew you would make the right choice and blah, 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 yeah.
But at the same time, he expected her to say, oh, thank you, doctor, thank you so much for this, and, thank you for coming back, and, all these things that he would normally hear from her, and he doesn't hear that, and I think that really upset him. But I think he wasn't waiting for it, he wasn't looking for that. But that's what he did. Everything about this episode, he knew what was happening. He knew why they were there. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Again, there's so much about this episode that bothers me, and I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about the season, about him. And this is kind of something we were all talking about back in the first 2 episodes, and then I think we got mesmerized by how funny it was when we started watching Robot of Sherwood and Listen and Caretaker, Time Heist and Caretaker, and we started enjoying him more, but I feel like there's more going on in the background. There's something else that we're not seeing, something else we're not taking away from this. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's that he sees what's happening. I don't know if it's because he's not the doctor. I don't know if it's because he is the doctor, but he's older than he says he is, and he's already been through this, or he's doing it backwards, or I don't know what the trick is. But there's something there. I can't... There's something else there, and it's bothering me.
Yeah. Well, this is definitely sort of, I don't know, like, he's the doctor, right? So he's the same person as Matt Smith was. But would Matt Smith ever do this sort of thing?
No.
I don't know.
He wouldn't have left it up
again, I said it's like A Good Man Goes to War. Did we ever think the doctor would be this ruthless, he would make an army to run away at the mention of his name? And he turned out to be something that he didn't think he was.
Right.
So I think, sure, Matt Smith could have maybe done this.
I don't think so.
Capaldi's a little more alien and a little less human in that respect, so he doesn't really think of the emotional aspect, so that's kind of the problem there. Mm-hmm. Matt Smith would have maybe made her make the choice, but he wouldn't have left. You see what I'm saying?
See, and I don't... A lot of this is stemming from the fact that Capaldi even says it. He says, not my planet, not my moon. And then she makes the response later at the end where she says, you walk on our world, you breathe our air. This is your home. I have never seen the doctor assume the Earth is not his responsibility. Never.
Right.
You have to go back to Hartnell to see the doctor not care about the Earth like that.
Yeah.
And even then, he still loves humanity, still loves the Earth. He would never put it in
lived there
danger.
for a little while, yeah.
Right.
In the junkyard.
This is what's bothering me about this season, about this doctor. He's a wonderful actor, but the doctor doesn't hate humans. The doctor doesn't hate the Earth. He is the self-appointed hero of the world, and he might not want to be anymore, but he is. And he makes this big statement at the very beginning. I've lived for 2,000 years, and not all of them were good, and it's about time I did something about that. But that doesn't mean that he becomes callous to humanity. It doesn't mean that he gives up on the people that for 2,000 years he did consider his home. Smith even said it, that place is my home. They took me in. He lives there. He loves that place. I don't feel like this is... He's not being true to... Capaldi's not being true to who the doctor has been. And if they're going in another direction, that's fine, but I need more explanation. I need a little bit more from Capaldi as to why he's being such a dick. That's what I want. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what I can.
I'm sure we'll get it. This is the thing. This is the one thing. I'm okay with him doing these kinds of things if he redeems himself later, which I'm sure he will. At least I hope he will. You know what I mean? I'm sure him and Clara will make up, and you know what I mean?
Unless he's not really the Doctor, unless he's the Master. Dun, dun, dun.
I don't think so.
What was that Gallifrey gave Matt Smith?
All these rumors about him being there for only one season and all this stuff. And so is he really the Doctor? What are they? That would be.
Well, he's already
crummy.
They're filming the Christmas special right now with Capaldi.
Right.
So it's more than a season.
Sure. And they're done, actually. I think they're finished by the time.
So he's in the next season, guys. I don't know. Whoever out there saying he's not in the seasons, they're not.
Well, does that count as this season? Christmas special counts as season?
Oh,
7?
I don't know.
I don't know. Or 8, I guess, yeah.
And we know Claire's in the rest of the season, so.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? We'll come back to that, because we'll come back to the end again. But let's. I thought the opening was really lame. He just repeated what we were going to see later. They could have just started with a theme song.
It was a little lame.
Yeah. I like that he had a yo-yo. Like, the thing about that is, the first time I watched it, I didn't even think about it. I was just like, oh, of course he has a yo-yo in his spacesuit. Of course he pulls it out and he's like doing it with it. And then the second time I was like, wait, where did he get the yo-yo from? What? Was it in his spacesuit pocket? That's just, I love it. It just goes back to, Tom Baker and all that. One thing about the moon that I thought was really... It was almost too obvious. It was obviously a rock quarry, but they were like, let's make it grayscale.
Yeah,
it's the moon. You can't have Doctor Who without a rock quarry episode. Right. Once per season.
It used to be every per season.
Yes, every planet. Let's see. Okay, so this was another example too of we've seen a lot of this where somebody's dying. So one of the extra people is gonna die, and he doesn't do much about it. The only time is when Courtney was gonna die. He actually cared.
Yeah.
He actually like I was almost expecting him to be like, it's too late. She's trapped in there. There's nothing we can do. But he didn't say that. He was like, he did the window and he was like, come on, I got you.
Yeah.
But then the other thing was right before that, the other guy dies, the astronaut, and he just goes, run, and they all run away. I was like, okay, that's not caring. About somebody dying, but it's just Capaldi so far.
Well, and that speaks to the fact that he's going to care about the people he cares about. He doesn't care about the extras. He certainly doesn't. Random people that just show up. But he does care about Clara, and he does care about, probably to an extent, he cares about Danny Pink, and cares about anybody who's involved in his life in an important way. Right. Matt Smith would have tried to save everybody. So would have David, and so would have Chris. But not Capaldi.
No. And maybe not even, like Hartnell, maybe not. And, well, Hartnell tried to smash a caveman's skull with a rock, so... and some of the others.
Hartnell's an old man.
Colin Baker, maybe. I don't know.
Colin Baker would have tried to strangle the astronauts when he first met them. And the spiders.
The old astronauts. That was kind of an interesting thing. There was third-hand astronauts.
Yeah. Best they could find.
You know what I loved was the callback to Blink. He tells Courtney, there's some DVDs on the bookcase. Stick one in the TARDIS console and it will take you to me. I almost wonder if David Tennant popped up and said, you have entered the whatever disc. And she's like, who's that?
That would have been cool.
That would have been cool. If they'd have shown that. But then I guess he says, but hold on to the console or you will... The TARDIS will leave you behind. So I guess all Sally Sparrow and that other guy, I can't think of his name, needed to do was just hold on to the console, and they would have gone with it.
Yeah, but they didn't. Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. But they didn't know.
But that was the point. They had to be left there.
Let's see. I think they said kill the moon. They said it right in the episode.
They did say kill the moon. Seriously, are we going to get a Mummy on the Orient Express line? Not Express line.
There's a Mummy on the Orient Express
line.
I love titular lines. I don't know what it is. It just makes me go, "Oh, they said it."
But he might change it. He might say, "There's a mummy on the Space Orient Express." No.
I guess that's all I had for like sort of the fun parts of it and the funny. There was a Tumblr joke. There was a Tumblr joke that was kind of funny. They were like posting the photos on Tumblr, and he got mad. And then that one astronaut goes, "My grandmother used to post things on Tumblr." That's pretty funny.
That I did like. I like that kind of stuff when they put the
I do too.
Real world social media. What's going on right then and there in our world. Yeah. I really miss Russell T Davies and the way he used to. They would always cut to a newscast. They would always cut to, "This is what's happening in the world," and someone was updating their Facebook, and two people were watching the news, and someone else was, taking pictures and
yeah.
Texting.
This could have had that. This could have had Clara broadcasting that thing, and then it cuts to the news. A global vote. What will you vote?
If Russell T Davies had done this episode, yeah.
Yeah. We cut to that one news lady he always used. It was the same one. That black lady that he would always cut to.
She was funny.
If you want to kill the monster, text 876.
No. I don't want to get stuck in a bikini again. Let's not go down that road. I don't know. This episode really was fun. It was exciting. There were a lot of little moments. I loved them. Going to the moon, and then they open up the door, and they're inside a spaceship. It's like, whoops, almost there.
Yeah,
that happens. That was a very
crashing
moment.
Into the
Oh, you know what that reminds me of? Peter Davidson's first story after his first story. So his first story was Castrofalva, but his second story then, Forward to Doomsday, where he tries to get Tegan back home, and he lands, and they look outside, and it's a spaceship, and he goes, no, this is the right coordinates, this is Earth, I don't know, where are we, why aren't we there? Because they were near Earth, they were just getting there, and it's just TARDIS couldn't go that extra distance because something pulled it there. That reminds me of that a lot.
Yeah. All right, so we can go and get serious again here. We can talk about the end a little bit more. Okay, so a couple things I thought were interesting. Mm-hmm. The lady immediately goes, "How do we kill it?" And the doctor, this is where we talk about what did the doctor know so far. Mm-hmm. No response from him at all. You even see Clara, she looks at the doctor waiting for a response, and he doesn't say anything. He's just still staring at the hologram. He doesn't say anything. She looks at him, and he doesn't say anything, so then she's like... So then she goes, "Well, what do you mean?" And so she starts the dialogue. Mm-hmm. I think that was his plan all along. I think he wasn't gonna interfere from the beginning. He's like, "Look, it's an egg. You either kill it or you don't." Mm-hmm. And then she goes, "So how do we kill it?" And he just shuts up. And I figured he'd be the first in line to be like, "What do you mean kill it?" Blah blah blah. But he doesn't say a word. And so Clara has to step in. I thought that was really interesting. I caught that the second time that he didn't say anything right after that.
Well, yeah, that does beg the question what he did and didn't know.
Yeah.
I think he knew all along. I really do. You're right. And I think she asked how do I kill it? He made the statement at some point in time. It was a suicide mission. That's why they came there. You don't bring that many nuclear bombs to the moon unless you plan on using them.
Yeah.
So I think he knew exactly what they would do. That's why he brought Clara, because Clara would make the ultimate argument against it. She'd say, "Wait a minute, there has to be a logical reason." Maybe he was leaving it in Clara's hands. She's his carer. She's the one that cares for him. So he was testing her to see how far she'd go. How much does she really care?
Yeah. I liked his quote here where he was talking about, "We went to lunch in Berlin," in 1937 or whatever. We didn't pop off after dinner and go kill Hitler. I've never killed Hitler. I love that.
Why?
But I'm not going to.
Yeah. He knows certain things can't happen or should happen or shouldn't happen.
Right. So yeah, I don't. This, I liked it. I was kind of they've been teasing this whole thing like the doctor's going to do something that Clara just hasn't seen before and will push Clara over the edge, and it did. And I wasn't really shocked that he left because he's kind of been doing that a lot. I feel like lately, he'll run off and then he'll come back. I mean, even in the middle of the episode, he jumped into the crater with all the amniotic fluid in it. And they were like, is he coming back? And she's like, well, I guess if he says he is, then he is. Yeah. And I believe he even said he was, you make the decision and then I'll come back or whatever. Or I don't know if he said that, but I was sure he was coming back at the end. So that didn't really shock me. But his just carelessness, I guess, of not wanting to help was kind of strange.
Well, but I maybe we're looking at this wrong. We keep assuming that the carelessness was because he didn't want to do it. The carelessness could have been an act. The doctor does lie. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe he was doing all of that and the act was to get her to make the choice.
Well, and I keep thinking of that line, like that. This was me respecting you, and he did it in sort of I would say a disrespectful way, right. Telling her to take the stabilizers off her bike, which in America we call those training wheels.
Well, I'm pretty sure they do in other countries too. That just the doctor calls them stabilizers.
Stabilizers
on Gallifrey.
Yeah.
Bikes have hover capabilities and stabilizers, and they travel through time.
And it was very patronizing. Clara calls it patronizing, and she was absolutely right. I think, I don't know, like, this is one of the things is, with regeneration, we're like, yeah, he gets a new personality, but, I mean, David Tennant and Matt Smith, they had different personalities, like, the way they... Yeah. Matt Smith was sort of more of a quiet anger, and David Tennant was more of a loud anger, but they still got angry about the same things-ish, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
This is, like, totally different. This is way out of left field. Totally different from those guys.
But that's why I think that there's more going on. Yeah. Because this doesn't seem like the Doc... This is too much of a departure from the Doctor's character. If he's supposed to be the same man, just with a different face and different idiosyncrasies, why would he do this? Why would he... First off, why wouldn't he advocate saving the life of a creature when we know he's done it before, even at the expense of other humans?
Well, he did, but he said, I'm not going to make the decision. He said, you'd have a lovely corpse up in the sky. He gave his opinion, but then he was like, but I'm not making the choice. I'm out of here.
It's so hard to imagine that from him when from Eccleston you get, the gaslight ghosts, the zombies, the Christmas Carol, or the Dickens episode, talking about how
Unquite Dead.
Yeah, the Unquite Dead. Well, they're talking about how he's talking about, it's a different morality. Get used to it. If they can use cadavers to survive, then let's do it. Trying to save. And I get that a part of that too. He was being played with the idea of the Time War. But you get that. You get David Tennant talking about the new form of life that was being born on New Earth. You get Matt Smith with the Silurians under the Earth talking about it's their time too. And that was a particular moment where he was going to let humanity and the Silurians discuss what they were going to do, and he was going to watch, but he didn't just run away. He didn't just walk away from it. He took on
right.
It's like we're watching a different character.
Well, and it reminds me too of the 50th too, where he had the Zygons and the humans talk it out, and Kate Stewart, and he made him forget who was a Zygon and who was a human, and then so they had to talk it out. So he didn't solve the problem; he had them solve the problem. I feel like this was the exact same thing. I saw that, he was like a teenager, a school teacher, and an astronaut. And what better people to solve this? And that was all great, but then he leaves, and I think that was the big problem. Because not only did he put Clara in danger, he also put Courtney in danger, left her there with Clara, which makes Clara feel responsible for that. Mm-hmm. And then is sort of patronizing about it. And I think that's where he made his mistake. And I don't know if, this is the thing is, it is the Doctor, but it's a new regeneration cycle. I don't know if they're going to go into that, if they're going to say, well, it's like a total reset where he goes back to kind of being a dick like Hartnell was. Or what, he's lost his humanness.
He's lost his humanity.
For sure. Mm. It's like his brain sort of reset a little bit. Oh, I'm a Time Lord. I'm not a human. Humans are so weird. And that's kind of what we're seeing. And that can lead to some great comical moments and some great character moments. But it's kind of messing with us a little bit, I think.
But it's not like that's like saying, you're from America and you decide to go over to Holland and been like, man, these Dutch people are weird. You suddenly realize, the hell am I doing here? These Dutch people. You know what I mean? Or like it's like being from another place and just say, well, I know I've been here for a bit, but this is kind of creepy now. I don't know. I just don't buy it. I don't know. Something else going on.
I think this episode did its job and shook us up a little bit. I think that was the point. And I think it's all set up, and that's the thing, is we can't really.
Yeah, we're going to come back to this at the end of the season, of course.
We can't really argue the effectiveness of this until we see what happens later.
Yeah.
Because this has all gotten us into a mood. I'm sort of. At one point, I'm like, Doctor, what are you doing? But then the other thing, I feel really bad for him because I know he didn't really mean to. And in the other way, I'm like, you go, Clara, because he has been kind of a jerk. And the other way, I'm like, no, Clara, like, he's sorry. But so I'm conflicted. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which the episode was supposed to do that. So that's why I loved the ending. I loved her speech at the end. I think it was great. And let me just say, freaking bravo to Jenna Coleman, or whatever she goes by now. Mm-hmm. Freaking bravo. Because
for the best performance she's been put in.
Seriously, the best. If there's, they have the BAFTAs over there. If she was the Emmys over here, that would be the Emmy reel. Would be that scene. They're like, they're going through the nominees, Jenna Louise Coleman, and then they show a little scene. That would be the scene. It's so good.
There are 3 moments with her that have just blown me away. That the ending really was one of them. That was her best acting I've ever seen from her. The second was during the 50th, where she's talking with the doctors in the barn. And just her saying, I never thought it was you, And then the third is when, right before Matt Smith changes, is just that whole monologue Smith gives and just her reactions to it. She just cannot contain how sad she is. Yeah. And she's blowing me away as an actress. She really is.
Her little moment with Danny, I thought that was a little. The one thing I will say was a little strange. It was the last episode. He goes, "Let me know if he pushes you too far," and then the immediate next episode, he pushes her too far. I was like, you couldn't have given it like an episode or two before he pushes her too far.
It's highly possible too. In between these episodes, we're missing out on huge chunks of adventures.
Well, sure.
The relationship between Danny and Clara is probably growing a lot faster.
And I think we are because at the beginning of this one, she says she's talking about Courtney to the Doctor, and he goes, "Oh, that was weeks ago."
Right.
The girl who threw up on the TARDIS. He goes, "Oh, that was weeks ago."
Right.
So
probably been so they've had weeks to go out on dates and
and go on some adventures.
Right.
Yeah.
I do want to point out one other line that the Doctor said that I really liked. I thought was interesting. A good character moment. But was when they first meet the astronauts, he says, "What are you going to do? Shoot me? Go ahead. Shoot the girl first, so that way she doesn't have to see you." And then she says, "You can shoot Clara. Then you shoot me." And he says, "But you got to keep shooting because I'm going to keep coming because I'll just regenerate." And he says, "I don't even know." Yeah, I might never stop. I don't know if I'll regenerate forever.
Yeah, I thought that was good.
He's in new territory. He is Doctor number 13 or whatever you want to call him. He is in a new regeneration cycle. This has not happened for him before. This has not happened for hardly, I don't think, any Time Lord before. He has no idea what'll happen next. He doesn't know if what they gave him will let him regenerate again. Maybe it's a new cycle. Maybe for him it's just a new one more,
Just one more?
Or maybe it'll never end.
Maybe it's the gift of immortality.
If it's a gift from Rassilon, it could be.
Yeah.
So I like to think that this is that line really kind of, maybe that gives me a little more clue as to who he is and what's going on. Is suddenly he's not just a Time Lord; he's the Time Lord. He's not the last of the Time Lords. He's everything the Time Lords will always be. He's everything the Time Lords could be. And that's changing, and that's mutating, and becoming something even more powerful and more dangerous. And when the Time Lords do return in the show, that might be an honestly dark, dark place for him to be and for them. That could be a mistake that they gave him this.
Could be.
They might see it that way.
But he's still doing good in the world, which is that's his thing, though. That's not really the Time Lord.
He saved
thing.
a Dalek on his second adventure. Really, dude? Really? That's good? Alright.
Well, he was trying to make a good Dalek.
The only good Dalek is a dead Dalek.
He saved Renaissance England, and he...
yeah, but he kind of bickered a little bit with a folk hero.
Listen, he really didn't do anything.
No, he just screwed up Danny Pink's life.
Time Heist, he saved the teller and his mate. And then the Caretaker, he saved the world? Yeah, the thing was going to explode. The thing could have destroyed the whole world if it got shot by the army or something. Yeah.
So he saves the world in Caretaker, literally weeks before, and then he goes to the moon and doesn't care if the world dies. World ends. Whatever. I don't care.
Right.
Do whatever you want. No, you just saved them. You just cared. Well, yeah, okay, yes, because he knew. He knew it was going to... Okay.
He knew that the moon would have... If they killed the thing, it would have been fine. If they didn't kill it, he knew it was going to be fine also. So
the only way I'm going to be able to accept what happened in this episode and move on until we get a little more explanation down the road is by saying this. The Doctor knew all along that everything was going to turn out just fine, and the reason he did everything he did was because he's a dick and wanted to prove a point to two different people. And one of them was a little girl who thought she was special, but he wanted to prove what special really was. And the other was the person he cares about most in this world to prove that she has to make certain choices for him and for others, and that's a responsibility.
I think, and this might be the last thing I'll say about this. This is because again, we keep arguing about this. Not really arguing, you and me, but just talking about this. And again, it's hard to do.
Right.
We can waste time talking about this, but we don't until we see what's going to happen and what's going to come from this. Mm-hmm. It's hard. I think this whole season is like the episode Dalek. 9 is not very nice in that episode. Mm-hmm. He is... Anybody who saw Doctor Who before this was like, it'll be great again, like Tom Baker, he's lovable Tom Baker and everything. You see 9 in Dalek and you're just like, who is this guy? But then by the end of that episode, he's mostly all better. Rose makes him better, she helps him see the error of his ways, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
I think this is like, it's being stretched out into a whole season. Like that sort of one character sort of thing that he's going to realize, he needs to change a little bit, and he needs to start thinking about emotions and blah, 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 it's kind of stretched out into a whole season instead of one episode. And maybe that's frustrating for some people.
Well, you know,
I kind of like it.
I do too.
Keeps me on my toes.
I'm really enjoying the season, and it is fast becoming my favorite.
Yeah, no, this is great.
The rest of the season is an eye blink, and I just can't see what the choices that are going to be made. Man, that's tough, man.
You mean you can't? Yeah, that really was the best explanation. I mean, big ball of wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff will always be the greatest, but
ball of timey wimey,
yeah,
eye blinks.
His explanation of how he sees time and how he can't see some moments of time and how they're fuzzy, and I don't know, that just for some reason that was perfect for me. I was like, I get it. I was like high. I was like I was high, and I was like, "Whoa, man, I get it now."
Well, and it goes along hand in hand with what he does. He wants to see things that he's never seen before. He wants to see the world, or the universe, and time and space, and he wants to see those moments that he can't see. That's why he travels to. He even says at one point in time, "What if I knew everything? What would be the point?" So. All right.
Well, final thoughts on this episode.
I reserve the right and will exercise my right to hold back all final thoughts on this episode. I'm going to say these final thoughts on this episode at the end of the season. So check back with me.
Okay.
In like 4, 5, 6 episodes.
There you go. I loved the end. I loved Clara's emotional scene. I loved her saying, you go away. and it broke my freaking heart. I tell you what. Sometimes I watch these shows and I don't really cry the first time. I almost never cry the first time I watch it because I'm thinking about stuff too much. I actually teared up a little this first time I watched this one. The only other thing to make me do that was the constant from Lost. The only other thing that would make me cry. And no, I lied. And Ji-yeon, I won't tell you what happens in an episode, but you find out at the end that somebody didn't make it, or it's thought that you don't make it, or whatever. So
right.
Okay, so I really liked it. We were talking about how this season is so great. I definitely have to agree with that. I think this season is really becoming one of the best. As I sort of went through this show, season 4 was my favorite. I thought it was the most fun. Donna was awesome.
Yeah.
And then season 5 came along, and season 5 is probably one of the best. It's got like a really great story arc. It's got some really, really good episodes in it. Again, we said it so many times, but 11th Hour is like the best episode ever. It's one of the best.
It really is.
And Pandorica and the Big Bang is such a great ending to that season. And then season 6 is good. It's not my favorite, but it's good. And season 7 was great. There were really good episodes in it, but as far as the whole thing together, I don't know. But this one's becoming really good. So who knows if these last 6 episodes will surpass, but
well, and that you're right, and this is going to segue perfectly into our next segment here. The next episode is actually one I've been waiting for, very much so, in this season. So I guess,
is that right?
I guess it's time to talk about a little thing I like to call, oh my god, that promo!
Oh my god, that promo!
Oh my god, that promo!
Oh my god, the promo! So, Mummy on the Orient
Express. What a great idea!
What a great title, too. I mean, I thought Kill the Moon was good. This one sounds great as well.
there are just some things, some episodes that have a title and an idea that are so unique and so beautiful and perfect. And you're like, why did we never think of this? A Christmas Carol. Why did no one ever think to do Doctor Who, A Christmas Carol? Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. Why did no one ever think to do Journey to the Center of the TARDIS? And now, Mummy on the Orient Express. It's basically... again, terrible promo. Really in the scheme of promos, but I'm so excited for this episode. The idea that there's a mummy that you can only see when you're about to die, apparently. I actually read the synopsis BBC has that people are only seeing him right before they die. They have 66 seconds, and no one else sees him, just the people who are going to die.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting. This one looks like a lot of fun, too.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor's like kind of in a different outfit. He looked like a little Colonel Sanders tie.
Right.
He's also got... this one's also got... it looks like it's going to be great. It's sort of a... I almost want to say like a 20s feel to it. Like a jazzy...
Right.
You know, like the music.
The flappers.
Jazz. All the people on the train. It should be fun. My one thing about this is now that we've seen Kill the Moon... is Clara going to be in this episode? From the promo, it does not look like she's on the adventure, at least.
Right.
And she might not be there on the train or anything. And I don't think she would be. Yeah, exactly. Unless he makes up with her in the first 5 minutes.
He might.
But I don't know. I think because I think the episode after this, isn't it one where like Clara's dealing with something and the Doctor's not around?
Yeah.
Right? So I think what we're going to get is we've got this where they've broken apart for a bit. The Doctor's going to have a single adventure and Clara's going to have a single adventure. And then maybe by the end of the next one, the Clara one, they'll get back together somehow or something in the next episode after that or something like that. So I think that's kind of a neat idea if that's what they're going for.
I think you're right. I think you're very right about that, and this is just a great idea. This is such a callback. This is exactly the adventure that we didn't get to see at the end of season 5. And God, I would love to have done this episode with Matt Smith and the Ponds, but okay, fine. If what I get is Capaldi, then I get Capaldi.
This might be the closest we get to sort of Capaldi being Sherlock Holmes. It almost looks like it's going to be like a mystery too. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mystery on a train.
That should be
sort
really
of episode. Cool. I'm excited for this one. This one sounds freaking fun.
Right? A lot of fun.
It just sounds like fun. The mummy's creepy too.
Super creepy looking. I love his shuffling and he drags one of his
dragging his foot on the. Something you're going to die, and this thing's coming at you. It's one of those things where it's like, why don't you just run? He's super slow. His feet are dragging.
Well, I'm sure there's some reason they can't.
I'm sure you can't. You're stricken with fear. It's the thing. It's like a guy who moves so slow, but you're so afraid that you can't move. It's terrifying. So this one looks great.
It looks a lot of fun. So join us.
Yeah.
Next week, Mummy on the Orient Express. That's going to be the best thing in the world.
And Doctor, I swear to God, you better make this right. You made my Clara cry.
Stop being a dick.
Do it anymore.
Come on, lighten up.
Make her cry with tears of joy. Please.
Don't ever wear that shirt you wore in this episode again. That was terrible. Well, onwards and upwards, my friend.
Yeah, join us. We will be talking about a mummy on the Orient Express.
A mummy on the Orient Express. Till next time, this is Matt saying... beware of spiders in the moon. Because they are afraid.
The moon is not a cheese. It's an egg. Why is it food? It's always food.
I'm never going to be able to look at the moon otherwise again.
Yeah, I'm going to see an egg from now on.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Voices from the Vortex is written, edited by, and starring Taylor Davidson and Matthew Whitecamp.
With Danielle Davidson as the sexy voice of the TARDIS.
Theme music composed by Brian Wurst.
Visit our website, www.broadcastgallifrey.com.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for an enhanced podcast experience.
Follow us on Twitter, @Vortex Podcast.
Like us on Facebook.
Follow us on Tumblr and Google+.
Subscribe to us on iTunes. And if you like what you've heard, leave a review.
Ask us a fan question through any of these media, and we'll answer it on the podcast.
Thanks for listening, and stay tuned to the Vortex.